The genuinely popular culture of England, Orwell writes, is something that goes on beneath the surface, unofficially and more or less frowned on by the authorities. The power worship, which is the new religion of Europe and which has infected the intelligentsia of England, has never touched the common people. Writing Bowling helps him to burrow deeper into that popular culture, I think, which cuts across all classes, even if the intelligentsia waft disdainfully audible. These thoughts are not, I would grant, articulated in so many words in Coming Up for Air, but they're intimated, groped for, anticipated, and it's possible they can't finally be exactly articulated. To systematise them would be, to follow Orwell's argument, profoundly un-English. Perhaps it can only exist as a sensibility sustained in a fiction. In that Proustian moment of reverie on the Strand, Bowling is propelled back into a golden age of empire circa 1900, an impossibly ordered place where the sun always shone. Vicky's at Windsor, God's in heaven, Christ on the cross, Jones in the whale. He leaves Lower Binfield with none of that to fall back on. And yet it's impossible not to think that he's stronger for it. However much you hate it or laugh at it, you will never be happy away from it for any length of time. Orwell will go on to write of England's influence in The Lion and the Unicorn. The suet puddings and the red pillar boxes have entered into your soul. Good or evil, it is yours. You belong to it, and this side of the grave, you will never get away from the marks that it has given you. Something totally inescapable about that. The Lion and the Unicorn expresses frustration with the political apathy of the English, and yet part of Orwell is seduced by the sleepwalker aspect of his countrymen. In that pamphlet, Orwell talks about the country's emotional unity, the tendency of nearly all its inhabitants to feel alike and act together in moments of supreme crisis. The line that stands out for me the most is the following: the nation is bound together by an invisible chain. Bound together. There is no escaping that chain. Bowling certainly can't. And yet that bond, however much it chafes, might also, paradoxically, act as a guarantor of national liberty. That which cannot be escaped holds forth the possible means, in other words, of escaping the greater peril. Just to start turning back to the beginning of my talk, and I asked why this apparently unremarkable tale of a nondescript middle-aged middle-class man fleeing suburbia for the countryside of his youth had the power to make us think and feel keenly about the confining setup of modern life. Of course, there are resonances today that bring Coming Up for Air closer towards us closer towards it. Dire state of the economy, the sense of global instability. But the elegy I think one feels most keenly is for something that maybe isn't even mournful in the novel at all. In 1939, Orwell and Bowling could, at some level, rely on that invisible chain's unifying force. And I'm not sure, in this day and age, that chain is still there. This brings me full circle to the overarching theme of the afternoon's tranche of lectures, adapting Orwell. I didn't want to drone on in excessive detail about the business of putting Coming Up for Air on stage. Although in essence, Orwell does a fantastic amount of work for any adapter. The piece is effectively written in the form of a monologue. In structural terms, there are 5 acts. A section of modern-day setup, a rewind back through the past of his childhood, a return to the present and his plans to go back to Lower Binfield, the actual return to Lower Binfield, and then the final return home to the present-day drab world. There are so many memorable observations and phrases which, so long as you bundle them together in an appropriate order, will appear to flow spontaneously from the mouth of the Bowling character. For reasons of time, incidentally, I had to bid farewell to characters like Porteous and even Bowling's first love, Elsie Walters, concentrating on the obsession with fishing and what that represented to Bowling. And a couple of things happened by confining the story in such a narrow way. And maybe wonder why the book has not been staged before, to anyone's great knowledge. Firstly, there's the detail of Bolin's chat, which is naturally crafted to be pithy and punchy, rather like a musical tale. I hired a chubby, fat actor whose main line of work was stand-up comedy, and at times in the opening section, when he goes about his weight and his lack of allure to women, you could have been watching a comedy routine. And secondly, in theatre, so much is about the imaginative process by which the audience invests in what they're watching. There was nothing on stage, apart from two wooden blocks and the actor talking. And yet people would come up after the show and explain that they felt that they had seen the fishbowl, that they had stood in the churchyard. They had seen, with Bolin, the desolating absence of the pull to later on. So what you had by default was this double sense I've been trying to talk about. Bolin is a figure forced to acknowledge the fact that he stands utterly on his own, trying to find a way forward, rolling in his mind, giving physical terms constrained to the spot. I don't think it's fanciful to say that you could see inadvertent shades of Samuel Beckett now. Finally, we can be duped into thinking that coming up for air is a lot of Edwardian nostalgic clutter. As I've tried to suggest, it is about stripping things down to their essential, to their bare essential, and asking what's left. Thank you very much.